try out a few other decks here that I picked up, which I thought was kind of interesting. This one actually really does appeal to me. It's actually called the Change Tarot and is a guidebook with psychological and spiritual exploration. So it really does. I just kind of went through some of the items in the book, and it really does actually have some interesting things to say. So, I mean, it's not going into, deep Carl Jung and all of that, but I mean, it definitely gives you some surface representations of how to make changes and how to sort of look at the complexity behind each card. So I will say that the card stock, so it's Change Tarot by Jessica Dore, illustrations by Xavier Lopez. So it does actually have some pretty good imagery. I would say that there's kind of a combination between some simplicity as well as some complexity, at least in, I mean, even in some of the outfits here. And there's also some kind of like a 3D sort of aspect to it that really kind of gives you a sense that there's something more going on that draws the eye. So anyway, I find it to be kind of an interesting deck, like I say, on a few different levels here. So I'll go through some of the cards here so you get a sense of what I'm looking at. I mean, there's just highlights between more of the dynamic in each of the cards seems to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it's almost like certain things will stand out to me more than others, is what I would say there. So for example, you've got the black on white, and then there's very striking red, and yet there's something, very distinct elements that really seem highlighted, and I feel like that's probably helpful for a lot of people that are readers. There's also something to the card stock that leaves me maybe not quite as, it's not as appealing that way. I feel like the card stock is a little bit more, it's a smooth card, but it definitely has kind of a paperish feel, maybe not, yeah, I can't even quite put my finger on it, but I would say that the cardstock has sort of a feeling of stiffness, I guess is what I would say there. Some of the other decks that I know I've used have a little bit more, there's a coating or something on the cards, and it seems to be they shuffle easier, that kind of thing. So if that appeals to you, either way. But like I say, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of good things, qualities around these cards because of the, even though it doesn't have, sorry guys, there's a lot of birds around me right now. I find when I'm driving, this is kind of my little safe haven where I can where I can focus, and I'm sure you can hear the birds out there. Anyway, so they're like overwhelming. It feels like there's like 500 out there. Anyway, moving on. So like I said, each of the card stock do seem to have some elements here that are very striking. It's almost like opposing colors, so it does really catch your attention. And like I say, something about it does seem to speak to you on a subconscious level, I would say. Cast a spell. I believe in energy, guys, and so that's kind of what I work with. I think that you can, I mean, I have my own little theory on some things, but I definitely feel like you have, we are living in a physical world, even though it is one that sort of represents, as my brother and I were actually talking about this, and it has, just on the quantum level, although he is certainly going to, he goes into far more of the quantum physics aspects than I. I deal with things on more of a creative basis. However, it's not to say I don't have interest in all of that. So I'm not really a spell caster per se. I do believe that we each come with gifts, however, and I think that we are all put here to represent in those gifts. And I think we forget who we are. And I would say, and I would speak to all of you in that same way, that once you remember who you are, it's a lot easier to make changes in your life because you're coming from a place of power versus fear and anxiety and all of those things. But like I say, this is great cardstock, and I'm going to do my next reading actually with these ones because there is some variations on the meanings of the card. So, and maybe I'll even just kind of go through something of the card just to kind of give you, or something from the book just to kind of give you a sense of how it represents. So I'm just going to choose one here. I'm just going to flip through till I find one that is... All right, let's do Knight of Cups. Okay, so I am referring to the book on this one because it's very new to me. Okay, so I mean, in general, the Knight of Cups does represent some kind of information that could be coming in that's very emotional. And it certainly does speak to having a sense of urgency, but it is also kind of a love message. So again, this isn't a reading. I will be doing a reading with these cards though. I see you there, Aiden. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is this one is just sort of, I will actually respond on, what I'm going to do is after I do sort of a review on this one, I'm going to do another live video here for, and if you want to chime in on that, we can do that for sure. So I will help for sure. So give me a few seconds here, but what we'll do, okay, well, I'll finish this part here just to give you an idea of what and then we'll do the reading. So this is the Knight of Cups. So this one actually, the way the card or the where the book sort of explains it is it does actually speak about the research and the behavioral science that is behind love and sort of speaks to love and its emotional state. And even though we tend to be always looking to feel good, it's only when we actually don't feel good that we tend to make the most advances in our situations. So it does kind of speak to, with this particular card, as far as it references, it sets you up for failure in relationships if you're always expecting to feel good, because that's not how life is. And even in the movies, they always show the happiest moments and everything, but that's a moment. It's just a moment, and you always have to be prepared to grow in a situation. So you have to be prepared to accept someone else's flaws and grow with their flaws as well as our own. So it does actually speak to, feelings that fluctuate. For me, it's kind of Knight of Wands more so but anyway, according to this, it's feelings that are prone to rapid sort of fluctuation. And it does actually speak to instability with this particular deck anyway. But again, some of the other cards represent a little differently for me on that. But anyway, it does speak to basically love and the notion of, being committed to an offer of love and, loving feelings that can still fluctuate. So I don't know if that helps any of you, but that's just the deck itself. So, but like I say, it just kind of gives you a little bit of a different interpretation. I won't go through all the cards. I will do some of your questions here in just a second. But this is what I see here for this particular deck. So I will kind of mix and match with some of the reading, and then I'll go through some of your questions. All right. And yes, I do believe that you can harness energy out there. Like I say, you can call it spell casting or however. But I do believe that how do I put this? To put energy out upon someone, I believe may have a detrimental effect to yourself. And I say that in part because my own personal experience, I suppose, that sometimes you get what you want, but it's not really what you want. So I'm just going to tell you guys, I feel that it's okay to, make a suggestion out to the universe or whatever it is that you believe, and to put that energy out there. Healing energies, that kind of thing, I do believe in as well. I do believe in Edgar Casey had also some of those competencies for being a visionary as well as, healing. And so I do feel that those energies exist. It's like when you walk into a room, you can get that sense that something isn't right and you don't really know what it is, but it's because you're impacted by the energy that's around you. So those that tend to be more sensitive will pick up on cues, especially if you've had any kind of history of, and we all come with pain. So, I mean, some of us are more empathetic or more empathic simply by virtue of having had a lot of, doesn't have to be trauma specifically, but certainly pains in life, bring you to a certain level of realization, and certain other, situations might also be a factor there that help you to kind of build your own spirituality or build your own level of I'm not sure if I'm explaining this well. I'm a better writer than I'm a speaker or reader. Anyway, but I would say that, anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. You can basically influence things, I feel, but you may not get what you expect from, because you can't force somebody's will into a situation. It'll backfire on you. If you try to cast a love spell or whatever, you may get the person, but you may also be getting a person who is not healed, someone who has not done the journey, someone who may then turn around and impact you with all of their scars and wounds. So just be careful and mindful of that. Sometimes it's better to grow yourself first. Well, not sometimes, it is better to grow yourself first and get to the other side and then look for somebody who's also on that same level or a step ahead of you so that you can grow into a scenario. Anyway, okay, let's just all quit talking there. All right, and I see you there, Rick. And Rick, just so you know, I mean, believe it or not, even in psychology, they actually do use tarot cards. It's a way of, it can reduce anxiety. There's all kinds of other factors that are involved there. So, it's just like anybody who goes to, different churches or has different faith. It's difficult to really say, even with sciences don't have they're a process. They are theories. Everything is not written in stone, because sometimes you'll find that science actually does say, well, something can't happen. And then, literally 30 years later, and I can actually, in my next video, I should put that up, you'll see that that they have been able to discount one theory over another. We have evolved. We constantly evolved. A lot of tarot, I feel, as well as a lot of other inspirational methodologies. These things are here for a reason, because our world does not have a lot of access to some of the things, counseling or otherwise, that people should have access to. And there's a fellow I watch, and he is fantastic. He's a psychiatrist. He's a gamer psychiatrist, and he actually talks about some really cool things. He says, a lot of times, because we're on computers so much, we oftentimes don't tend to process our own emotions. So if we're not processing our own emotions, we are looking for diversions. And so in that space, we no longer have the ability, or I shouldn't say no longer have the ability, but we tend to rely less on our uh, competencies, because we're not fleshing it out. We don't know what we're made of, because we're constantly diverting our attention, so we don't process the emotions. So, like I say, don't look at everything, with complete disregard. There is an element of growth in everything that we do, and you'll see that things layer upon layer, whatever your interests. Okay, Aiden. Well, like I said, I mean, it's not about, and just so you know, as far as seeking mental help, you have to understand a lot of mental help and psychology and counseling, all of those things actually are all based on accepting the things around you. So we all have something that brings us to a level of inspiration. So, like I said, some people, we can't be all lawyers, we can't be all doctors. So you have to, and even with, even when we're looking at things in terms of finance, you would never put somebody who is just learning the stock market into a position of, a Fortune 500 company. Everything has to move in stages. So, like I said, I wouldn't be so quick to be judgy. Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Therapy didn't work, but again, that's also about the person that you're around. So if you didn't have somebody that had a certain level of competency, or if you didn't have somebody who kind of met you on the same basis. Not all psychiatrists, psychologists, all of that have the same, they don't all come from the same background. Some of them have sort of a Freudian background. Some of them believe in more of a Jungian background. So, yeah, that's why I say therapy takes time, and it definitely takes the right person to speak to you and to understand you. So, I mean, I might be a little ADHD, but you know what? That gamer guy is ADHD, and that guy is so smart, and he's hilarious. I think a lot of you would really, benefit from just checking him out anyway. But, he said the same thing. He started off, didn't have a lot of, didn't have great, grades, and didn't do well in school. And then his father took him over to India, and and basically lined him up at the airport, dropped him off. There was one fellow left at the airport that didn't speak a lick of English, and he couldn't communicate with the fellow. Got in the car with a random stranger, goes off to some kind of institution or whatever that helped him to sort of purify himself in some way, and then ends up going back to school, becomes a psychiatrist, realized he was ADHD, and then all of a sudden the world just opened up and changed. He's a pretty cool guy to listen to. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out. But yeah, and for sure, I mean, we all need someone to vent to. Sometimes when you're just sitting alone, our thoughts are so cyclical that they just end up paralyzing you. So, I mean, I've been there, guys. I mean, we all have moments when we don't feel like we can soldier on because, the world gets a little bit corrupt and you start to see the belly or the underbelly of things. But, in the grand scheme of things, it's sticking together to kind of, make the difference. But it's also making sure that you're growing and leveling up. Because if you're always staying in the same place, you live the same day every day. Just reading your comments there, guys. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I get it. I know that, therapy's not for everybody, but I also feel that you have to have the right person. It's like, your closest friends sometimes are, maybe not, they seem supportive in the short term, but they also might be supporting the you in the box mode as well, instead of you in the growth model. Because part of that is, we have to be, if we're not constantly growing, again, you're stuck in a certain mode of life and you continue to live that way. And that can be quite, yeah, that can be quite limiting. So anyway, like I said, I mean, we all take on our own little identity in life, and it's just a facade. Everything is a facade. Everything is a filter. When you think when you think you have a handle on something, life throws you a curve. So, sorry, trying to read what you have there. No, I get what you're saying there, Rick, and I'm not even going to say that there's not an element of truth, but it's only a part of the truth. I will say that because yeah, I mean, I will say that I've kind of been in a couple of those spheres, so I understand that money talks for sure. But I will also say this. Sorry, just reading some of your stuff there. I will still say, like I said, that there is elements of truth in everything. Like I said, check out that gamer guy, that psychiatrist, because he calls himself the gamer, but he's really down to earth and he really just kind of gets to the heart of matters. There's also someone else that I watch as well. I do watch a lot of YouTube videos and so on. I used to do a lot more reading, but just life's been busy. So, what I noticed is that a lot of the information that's out there, like I said, I mean, you can't trust everything implicitly, but I also feel that there's a lot of inspiration that's lacking. And sometimes, if you're not finding the route to your answers, I mean, you're looking in the wrong direction. You know, it's a lifelong journey. And as far as people only love you when you have money, I'm going to say this: the world, we live in a physical world, we live in a practical world. So yeah, money does have a certain reverence for sure. But then you're going to see that there's tiers. There's people that are lawyers, there are people that are professionals, and because they actually have that designation, they're already immediately afforded a certain platitude or a certain level of respect. And then if you're a creative person, again, all of the creatives stick together and all of the professionals tend to stick together. And usually not a lot of those spheres will meet. However, there are some that are quite genius and they actually have found the balance between the two. But you'll also find that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there that are very more inclined to learn and take the hits and the ego hits and all the rest of it that comes with life. And it's always an ego hit. They actually get out there and they become, if you'll see, if you actually watch on the internet here, there are loads of people that, younger people are actually more of the millionaires that are out there than a lot of the older ones. There are certainly people that are more established and have been and teach their own children all of the ways of the world in on money levels, and that is part of the difference between those that have and those that do not have. It's a belief system as well. I mean, if you're always fighting yourself and always saying, I'm missing this, I don't have that, and sure, I've been there myself, you're going to always be fighting yourself, and the battle is you. Right? You actually, minimize your own level of potential because you're too busy fighting yourself. And when you're emotionally dysregulated like that, you can't accomplish anything because your focus is just on dissatisfaction. And as far as people only loving you for money, my theory is, and sure, maybe it's not maybe the right theory, but to a certain degree, we all play the game. And I do feel that this is a game. Sorry, but that's how I see life. It is truly a game. It's about how do you up level, how do you improve yourself, how do you, get to know who you are so that you feel comfortable in your own skin. So when you feel comfortable in your own skin, you're not too worried about the guy who's got like the Lamborghini or whatever it is, because you actually feel you already know roughly you can tap into what that person's insecurities or weaknesses are, and everybody comes with them. It doesn't matter what your level of success is. Everybody has weaknesses. Some people are just better people readers than others, but it's not about you being uncomfortable. It's about you being uncomfortable enough to change. And don't fight yourself and sit there and look at all the things you don't have and how you don't measure up. There is so much information on the internet, and even if you're starting on a small basis making money, you know what I mean? Even if it was $50 more than you had before in the bank account because you opened up something on the internet, it's you learning business, and then it's kind of expanded from that. And besides, it's not about whether people really love you. It's, you got to love yourself first to attract the right people. Sorry, just reading what you had there. Sorry, Manjusta, just reading, no contact. Okay, so anyway, ask your questions because I'm a little unclear on what I'm seeing there. But yeah, don't personalize it, Aiden and Rick. Like I get where you're coming from. I'm not somebody who, believes everything is roses and flowers for sure. I have taken my own little hits as well, but I look at it this way. It makes you stronger, you're more resilient, and on top of that, you constantly figure out ways to turn that talk around, because I am one of those people too that, you had to fight your own emotional, because sometimes when you're ADHD or any other, issue around that you're having to deal with, highs and lows kind of go with a lot of, emotional dysregulated situations. So when you go through the highs and lows, it takes a lot longer to sort of talk yourself down when you're really angry or whatever. But like I said, I mean, the whole point here is to help one another. Life can be crappy. People will always take advantage, but don't see it as taking advantage so much as learning where society is hurting. What can you do to make a difference in the world? You want to please a woman? Right. Okay, well that's worth it, I mean, but I will say this, I mean, even okay, it's my own little bias on this, but I think a lot of women are generally tended to look for, they do look for someone that will make them feel safe and secure and that they can rely on. And I think that it's a little bit, maybe old fashioned on that sense that, but I think, or they want to be able to meet in the middle. So if they're making a certain amount of money, they want you to be able to make a certain amount of money, and never feel like you can't, because it's only when we get stuck in our own head and our own limiting thought about who we are, when we put ourselves in the box and say this is who I identify as, that's when things get crappy. You know what I mean? It's because you're limiting yourself and what you believe you can do. Yes, you have to fail a few times to be able to advance and figure out your skill level and how to tweak something, but the whole point is tweak it. Sorry, just reading the rest of the comment there. Hi, Marty. McFly. Um, Yeah, and as far as pleasing a woman, please yourself first, because when you please yourself, that's, and I don't mean just, being self-oriented, because sometimes even in therapy, people can be very too much self-oriented to the point where they never actually feel free because they're too busy, regressing into the past, and they're not able to live in the present. So, it's mostly about getting out of our own way and emotionally regulating ourselves, finding those tools. And if you look up YouTube, how to emotionally regulate myself. So how do I, those are the questions, and there's millions of answers. There's counselors and so on that I watch as well. well. Oh, I forgot what her name is, but she is amazing, and she's got counseling tools all over the place, for anything that you're kind of struggling with. Yeah, and for sure, Marty's remark, for sure, you can't please everyone, you got to please yourself. And that's the thing too, because when you don't feel, how do I say this? Uh, I'm not great on the quick spot here, but I will say that when you don't have a sense of yourself, you don't know what you want. So you're looking for someone to fill that space and make you feel whole. And that's unfair to the other person, because the other person doesn't have the same balance. You're accommodating to them when really they would like the best version of you, and you would want the best version of them. And then as a matter of fact, there's been research around relationships where they actually say it's more about how you get through difficulties and problems that determines the longevity of the relationship versus all the other external factors. So if someone feels that you're willing to grow, usually willing to grow with you. So it is about asking the right questions versus, trying to figure out someone and fill that need. It's more about, if somebody values education, then they are most likely to value education that you might, and it doesn't have to be on professional level. You can be educating yourself in many ways. Sorry, just reading. Yeah, well, okay. All right. So anyway, okay. Does anybody have a question? Does anyone have a question? All right, let me just ask this one. What does Aiden need to hear right now? What does Aiden need to know right now? What does Aiden need to know right now? What is the best advice? Okay, Aiden, I don't know if you're going through heartbreak or something here, but you definitely have some cards that show me there is some heartache for sure. Feeling like you've been left out, feeling like, just in general, we'll kind of go through it here. And let me just pull one more here. What is the best advice for Aiden? What does Aiden need to know to help his situation? Okay. All right. So we'll start out with the first cards here. So I'm going to read from a couple of things. I'll redo my traditional sort of knowing what the card is all about here, and then we'll kind of get into it following that. So we're, starting out with the Five of Cups. Fives are all about, having to make some kind of adjustment in our life and able to sort of move toward a change of some sort. So emotionally, it does look like you are going through something right now. I'm going to say this, Aiden. It looks like you have a situation where it's definitely a bit of imbalance, because the five is all about, an uncertainty emotionally. But I will say also, because it is around the Four and the Five of Cups, it's advanced itself here. So this is you feeling cut off. There's a deep sorrow of some sort. There's a setback. There is something that you are having gone through here that isn't really resolved, and that kind of speaks to, I guess, what you were mentioning here as well. But either way, in terms of a romance or in terms of a relationship, I feel like this is maybe the end of a relationship is kind of what that card speaks to, and it's left you feeling at a loss. And it does speak to, you want something to return, this person to return, because it is leaving you in a period of emptiness, especially with the Four to the Five of Cups. There's deep sorrow here. It's a setback. It's something for sure you're having to heal around. It does speak to a little bit of self-pity that kind of goes along with these cards for sure. I'm going to ask another card here as well, just in regards to what it is that you can expect if that relationship will return. But it's definitely dissatisfaction and hurt and regret and all of that. Definitely trouble in some kind of ongoing relationship. The card of, I mean, and there is a couple of cards here, like the Strength card as well as the Nine of Wands. Strength is a major arcana, although it wasn't sort of the main ones out here, but it definitely speaks to a certain level of balance and resiliency. So it's almost like, you can trust yourself. This is a card that speaks to, wisdom and knowledge and having belief in yourself. And it definitely is around a passionate love, I would say, very much so. As far as the relationship part of it, somehow is kind of, it is sort of speaking to an intense period. Very strong relationship, but it does seem to be over, whatever that is. So I don't know if that actually is your case, but it's looking like that to me. The Ten of Swords is the final card of a situation. So it does mean that whatever this was, it ended in some harsh communication. It ended in a very negative sort of way. It is a forced change, and it is something that you have to accept the inevitable and move on from. So this is kind of a final resolution card. And I'm going to also do what is the best that you can hope for. What is the best that Aiden can hope for in his love life, or what's coming in for Aiden in terms of love life? What is coming in for Aiden in terms of love life? An upgrade. What is coming in for Aiden in terms of love life? Ugh, but you might sabotage it. Okay, Aiden, if you're listening. You do have something that's going to come in for you. I don't believe it's the same person, though, but either way, there is a conclusion to whatever that previous relationship was. And you're definitely almost all the way through it, because the Nine of Wands does indicate it's pretty much, you've kind of gone through, you just have to persevere and then sort of integrate all the lesson, whatever. But like I said, it does speak to some kind of change that's coming in for you that does look to be a good change, although this looks like you're going to try to sabotage it. I think you might be carrying in some of the old baggage to the new situation. That Nine of Wands does tell me that you are persevering. You're not giving up. You are dealing with some suspicious kind of, behavior. But I do still feel, despite that setback, it really does tell me that you are a pretty strong person, actually, because of the combination of cards. Like I said, part of it is a little bit of blowing things out of proportion here that I see. It definitely feels like a relationship kind of heated up, to a space where you guys need some breathing space. There's too much going on here. You have to kind of give each other some space, growing pains, whatever it is, but something has to kind of, there has to be some space, period. Um, I'm not saying throw away the situation necessarily, but I feel like the expectations maybe are part of the scenario here. The card of Judgment is a big one, and that does tell me there's some kind of decision coming in here, whether you or somebody else is making that choice. Judgment is a big card, and it does feel like it's going to be life altering. So, but it's also you taking responsibility back, or somebody is taking responsibility back in some way, because this is a breakthrough moment. So it's like where you realize your part in something, or you realize a scenario or a path in life, and it's a part of you is ready to kind of release it anyway. Like you're releasing a part of the past and you're wanting to start fresh here. So it feels like you're kind of back in the driver's seat here soon, because it's a card of where those valuable lessons are learned. The Fool card tells me you are moving off in a new direction here. So this is kind of, and again, all these are finish up cards. So I feel like you went through some real hardship, and I'm sorry for that. Love is a battlefield, as they say, but it's not, it's really more about growing pains. I'm not saying that, any you have to love yourself always first, because when you like your own company, it doesn't matter if you're alone. Then people, as soon as you're relaxed and you step back, all of a sudden people start coming out of the woodwork. It's just how it goes. Anyway, the Fool is that card of wanting to embrace whatever's coming in. You get a fresh start here and a new beginning. This also indicates, something in terms of romance, you're maybe not ready to make a commitment. It feels like this could be a younger person. I don't know if you are, Aiden, but I kind of get a sense you are. But there's a certain sense of restlessness, not wanting to stick to one person necessarily, but you're kind of living right in the moment. You're living in the now. Okay, on to the new beginning. So the new beginning tells me, the Eight of Swords, again, I feel like you're going to try to self-sabotage here a little bit, get in your own way, all of that. And I would say to you, do the healing first, because that's the only way that you're going to kind of regenerate. And that means setting some priorities about what it is that you want in a relationship, and not so much what somebody else wants. But and here's the thing. I think there was also another person I was listening to where they were talking about, our society has come down to a place where there's so many boundaries and there's so much message out there about, I can only accept this and I won't tolerate that. But it's also, there's got to be a little bit of give and take. Now, I'm not saying if you're, in an abusive situation or there's relationship issues to the degree that it's abusive to one another, that is not what I'm saying to remain in. But I mean, if it's something that can be worked on, you find the tools that you need from wherever to be able to address it, to make things better. So, like I said, the Eight of Swords is that card of telling me that you are not quite ready for something new anyway, because it is kind of restricted thinking. It's thinking the worst. It's not dealing with emotions. There's a lot of triggers going on. Things will set you off easily, even if it slightly reminds you of a scenario. And even in terms of romance, this is also where you feel restricted. You don't feel like you're at your best self, and this is about feeling like things are just too uh, unproductive. You know what I mean? It just feels like you refuse to see how you're being held back with your own thoughts. The Eight of Cups is also having to kind of step back from all of that, and it's not necessarily cutting everybody off. You can still be friends with people, but it's giving each other some space for sure. But I feel like you or somebody else, there's a leaving of a situation. There's a departure here because you're just depressed, or this phase of life has changed. Like there's a low period emotionally for sure. The ego feels a little bit broken down, but I still feel like that fork in the road comes through with that Judgment card. And I feel like you are going to be moving into a space where yes, a long-term relationship has ended, but I want you to know you're moving on with your life, because the Three of Pentacles tells me you've learned what you want, what you will accept, what is, and usually what you're looking for anyway, which we all eventually come to, is what do we value the most? Are we on the same page? Because what we value, what you believe in, those kinds of things are very important in a relationship, because those are the core things that you work on. The foundation of who we really are doesn't change all that much, from, early age. So, I mean, if you believe in the value of people, or you believe that feelings are, to be sensitivities, like if you're, how do I put that, if you're a very emotional person, sometimes you'll attract your polar opposite, and somebody is quite grounded. But if you're grounding each other in the right ways, then that means there's something still to work on, clearly. But either way, like I said, the three is still that trine. It's where there's collaboration, you're getting some kind of help, and this is where I feel like your plans are going to be involving group activities. I don't know I'm going to ask another card here on what that situation was that caused the problem there. But either way, I feel like you're going to empower yourself by developing new skills here. So this is you getting some coordinated, getting some help with your situation. Whether this is you, creating more skills for yourself so that you can benefit, move into a better situation with somebody that does understand you. But either way, this is establishing more of a stronger foundation. So establishing stronger routines. It's about being much more skilled in whatever it is that, so I feel like you're kind of switching your focus to money. Actually, that's what it really looks like. You're switching your focus to money. That's the new money path. That's the new journey. So it's not so much that, because I think even if there is a love situation coming in here, although I don't really feel like it's that, I think you're just going to self-sabotage the love scenario. Looks like you're switching your focus to money is what I'm seeing here. So use your skills and your abilities to create what it is that you feel is enduring and important to you. And the right person will come along when, and which will help you to, and that's a mature energy. That's the energy of, I'm building on myself so that I can, have a growth mindset and bring somebody in that shares the same understanding. Okay, well, I do see some comments that doesn't really tell me what they were, but either way, that was that. So take it or leave it. I don't know. Looks like heartbreak to me. So, and especially when it's followed by the 10 of Wands, looks like a nasty one. Okay, anybody else have a question? But like I said, there's something here for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're getting it off. I mean, I listen to, things around, what is it? I listen to everything on the internet. It's a lot of good information out there, on my own little spiritual journey. And like I said, I think that's what we're here for, is to help each other out. We can all be a-holes for sure, but what's the point? You know what I mean? Okay, anybody else have a question? Last piece of advice for Aiden. Okay, well, you got that 10 of Wands again. Still battles. Well, Aiden, you do have something that's going to make you happy, actually. Something's going to come in that's going to create some stability for you. You just have to choose it. You have to be open to it. But it's right there. Okay, thanks, Aiden. Do what you want. Your life. I'm not here to argue. Well, I'm glad you're already happy. That's what's important. Okay, so sorry, I'm just reading your comment, lady. Missing your kids. Is there going to change what to do? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, lady. Are you saying that you want to know if your kids are coming back? Oh, sorry. Okay, so you're asking whether the kid's father is going to change. Is that correct? Okay, what is these ladies' ex-husband going to change? Lady's ex-husband going to change. It's not looking good right now. Is he going to change? There might be some kind of reconnection here, but I feel like that situation is not ready to change. And in fact, there's a tower. So there might be a moment coming in here that suggests to me that there's going to be some kind of dramatic, what is the tower? What is the tower? What is the tower for lady? It almost feels like it's going into a different direction, or a parting of the ways, or something like that. All these cards are kind of showing me some heavy energy here. So I just feel like maybe it's a divorce of some sort, but there's some kind of change starting. It doesn't look like he's in any way ready to change yet. Sorry, hopefully that's not too dismal. But, on the upside, better to have, I don't want to give advice, I really shouldn't, but I'm just saying that just off the cuff, conversationally, you know, when somebody's not ready to change, they will punish you all the way down the road. So they have to go through their own life's lessons, and when sometimes people have to bottom out to sort of figure out who they are. You just have to keep being you. Anybody else have a question? Just so you know, Aiden, I actually like your spirit. I'm a bit of the same kind of person you are. So, yeah, I don't give in that easy either. Okay, so any more questions before I sign off, guys? All right, I will. Anyway, that was my review on the cards, even though it turned into something entirely different. But yeah, anyway, next time I'll be more prepared. Right. Sorry. Oh, and I didn't answer Manju says, Jang, okay, current feeling for... What is the... Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand that. Manjusha, is it... you want to know what Sandeep's feelings are for you? Okay, what are Sandeep's feelings for Manjusha? What are Sandeep's feelings for Manjusha? What are Sandeep's feelings for Manjusha? Oh my God, is this just negative cards coming out today? I don't know what's going on. Well, okay. Manjusha, I would say this is a situation where you guys have some verbal conflicts for sure. It doesn't feel like you're both on the same page. Feels like you both want to win. It doesn't feel like anybody's giving in because there's just too much of that, you know, need to... Somebody's got to change and nobody's willing to change. The Five of Swords is still kind of speaking to, you know, neither of you are trying to find middle ground. It looks like you're both in that situation of, you know, I want to be right. And what did I hear? Dr. Phil one time said something about that. You know, you can either be right or have a marriage or whatever. So, you know, it's... And you're welcome, lady. I appreciate you guys. But as far as the Five of Swords, like I said, it feels like there's a little bit too much of that power struggle going on here. So even if somebody does win an argument, it's like nobody won because there's so many hurt feelings that nobody feels good afterward, you know? So it just feels like there's a little bit of heaviness that goes along with that situation. You know, even with the Ten of Swords, like there's just a lot of struggle going on there. Somebody wanting to dominate over the other. Nobody's willing to compromise. It's that kind of energy. I would say that this person really does feel like that they can't speak to you. And it could be vice versa, you can't speak to them. There's a lot of that hurt energy, and it's, you're both having, or he's having, you having trouble putting things behind you. So whatever the mistake was, it just keeps repeating, is what I would say. And there's almost a feeling of abandoning the relationship is kind of what I'm getting there. Again, even with the Five of Swords on there as well, like it just feels like there is one person trying to dominate over the other. There's no compromise. Obviously, you do need to have some flexibility in the situation. That's exactly what the Two of Pentacles revolves around, is, finding, seeing how one thing affects the other. And there's a juggling of emotions. You're trying to always adjust and readjust, and the emotions seem to be off balance here. It feels like there's some major changes maybe that have been to the relationship, but either way, it still kind of speaks to a situation where, somebody doesn't have time for the other, or there's a situation where there's just a lot of, things nobody's being flexible enough to kind of accommodate for the other. That's what I would say there. And because of that, it looks like there's some arguments that arise, and it doesn't feel like it's able to go forward at this point yet. So that's just the current energy. I mean, energy is fluid. Energy moves. Everything changes. Make a new decision each day. You'll have new changes to the mindset. But that's currently what I see going on there. Hope that helps. All right. So signing out. I will do some readings for probably Libra here, I guess, in the next little bit. And I will get back to you. So thanks for the spicy chat there, Aiden and Rick. And like I say, I mean, you know, it doesn't, free speech, you know, it's good to get information, get things out there. Oh, and I missed AK. I'm sorry. Hi, AK. Hi, Harry. Sorry, I didn't see all of you guys on there too, but I appreciate you. So anyway, I will do another read here for Libra in the next little bit. I'm just going to familiarize myself with the next deck and throw that out there also. Take care, guys. Enjoy your day.